Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most important and alarming developments coming out of Russia, a story that reveals how Vladimir Putin's control over his country is beginning to slip. For more than 2 decades, Putin has ruled Russia with an iron fist, projecting strength, control, and stability, but now, cracks are forming in that image. The Kremlin's tight grip on power is weakening, and even the state-controlled media can't hide it anymore. For years, Putin built his empire on fear, loyalty, and propaganda. Every move he made was designed to eliminate opposition and ensure that no one could challenge him. But after more than 2 decades in power, the very system he created is beginning to turn against him. The Russian people are growing restless, the elite class is divided, and the military, the backbone of his power, is showing signs of discontent. The illusion of total control is starting to crumble. Inside Russia, dissatisfaction is spreading faster than the Kremlin can contain it. The economy is in serious trouble due to sanctions, isolation, and the massive costs of the ongoing war in Ukraine. Prices are rising, jobs are disappearing, and the once proud Russian middle class is vanishing. People are realizing that the strong Russia Putin promised is not the reality they live in. Instead, what they see is a nation struggling under the weight of corruption, mismanagement, and endless war. Even Putin's most loyal allies are starting to show frustration. Governors, local officials, and even senior figures in the security apparatus are quietly questioning his decisions. Some are worried that his obsession with Ukraine has weakened Russia's position globally and domestically. Others fear that sticking with him could drag them down when his regime inevitably falls. These whispers of discontent are no longer confined to back rooms. They are starting to echo across the country. In Moscow, the tension is visible. Security has been tightened, political gatherings are being monitored more than ever, and even minor protests are met with overwhelming police force. But despite these measures, discontent keeps spreading. Russians are increasingly turning to VPN, social media, and independent journalists abroad to learn the truth that state TV refuses to show. The Kremlin's propaganda machine is losing its grip on the narrative. For Putin, control of information has always been his greatest weapon, but in the digital age, truth is harder to bury. Leaks from within the government, insider reports from the front lines, and testimonies from soldiers' families are exposing the dark reality of Russia's situation. Casualties in Ukraine are far higher than the Kremlin admits. Corruption in military contracts is rampant, and the morale among Russian troops is collapsing. The more people see these realities, the less they believe in the official story. There's also growing fear inside Putin's inner circle. The failed Wagner mutiny led by Yevgeny Prigozhin last year was a major warning sign. For the first time, armed Russian forces openly defied the Kremlin and marched toward Moscow. Even though the rebellion was crushed, it shattered the image of Putin's absolute control. It showed that power in Russia is not as stable as it appears. Many of those involved in or connected to Wagner have since vanished, been arrested, or died under mysterious circumstances. But the message remains clear: Putin's authority is no longer untouchable. The Russian elite, who once viewed Putin as their ultimate protector, are now quietly making backup plans. Some are moving their families and money abroad. Others are trying to distance themselves from Kremlin politics. They see that Putin's war in Ukraine has isolated Russia from the global economy and turned the country into a pariah state. For oligarchs who thrived on Western business ties and luxury lifestyles, this new reality is unacceptable. The fear of what comes after Putin is real, but so is the fear of staying tied to him. Meanwhile, Russia's younger generation is becoming increasingly alienated from the government. Many of them grew up connected to the internet, exposed to global culture, and tired of old Soviet-style propaganda. They see no future in a country where dissent is punished, opportunities are shrinking, and wars are fought for reasons they don't believe in. Thousands of young Russians have fled abroad to avoid conscription or to escape the suffocating atmosphere of fear and censorship. This brain drain is slowly hollowing out the country's talent and innovation base. The war in Ukraine, which was supposed to showcase Russia's power, has instead revealed its weaknesses. The military, once considered one of the world's strongest, has suffered devastating losses. Equipment shortages, poor logistics, and low morale plague the front lines. Putin's decision to invade Ukraine was meant to solidify his image as a strong leader who could restore Russia's greatness. But the opposite has happened. The war has drained the economy, isolated Russia from its allies, and eroded public trust. Even the Russian Orthodox Church, one of Putin's strongest supporters, is facing backlash. Many priests and believers are questioning the moral justification for the war. Families are mourning the loss of loved ones, and the government's endless push for patriotism is starting to feel hollow. The emotional toll is immense, and the cracks are showing in every part of Russian society. Western intelligence reports and analysts are noting these shifts closely. They say that while Putin still holds power, it's increasingly dependent on force and fear, not genuine loyalty. When a leader must rely on repression instead of respect, their power is already fading. The Kremlin's increasing paranoia, arrests, surveillance, censorship are signs of weakness, not strength. History has shown that such regimes eventually collapse under their own weight. Inside the Kremlin, the struggle for influence is intensifying. Different factions, security agencies, political insiders, and regional leaders are positioning themselves for what comes next. Everyone senses that Putin's era is nearing its end, but no one dares to say it publicly. The question now is not if his control will slip completely, but when. Putin's health and isolation are also becoming major points of speculation. Public appearances are becoming rarer, and when they happen, he often seems distant or uncomfortable. Rumors about his condition circulate constantly, despite official denials. Whether these rumors are true or not, they contribute to the perception that the Russian leader is weakening. In a country where image equals power, that perception is dangerous. The Kremlin's attempts to maintain control through censorship and intimidation are becoming less effective. Every time they shut down a journalist, arrest a protester, or block a website, more people lose faith in the system. Fear is no longer working as it once did. Russians have learned to adapt, using humor, coded language, and digital tools to resist the state's control. This quiet resistance, though invisible on the surface, is steadily eroding the foundation of Putin's authority. Internationally, Russia's isolation is deepening. Former partners are keeping their distance, and even allies like China are cautious. Moscow's attempts to build new alliances in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia are largely driven by desperation. The image of a powerful, respected Russia has been replaced by that of a country clinging to relevance through aggression and propaganda. Inside Russia, state TV still tries to project confidence, claiming that the economy is strong and the people are united. But Russians know the truth. Empty shelves, shrinking incomes, and increasing repression are daily realities. When propaganda no longer matches experience, people stop believing. That's exactly what's happening now, and it's something the Kremlin can't reverse. Putin's greatest fear is not an external enemy, it's his own people. Revolutions in Russia's history have always started from within, when the suffering of ordinary citizens reached a breaking point. The current situation echoes the late Soviet era, when the government appeared powerful on the surface, but was hollow inside. It only took one spark for the entire system to collapse. Today, many experts believe Russia is entering that same stage again. A mix of economic decline, public disillusionment, and elite infighting is creating the perfect storm. The Kremlin can delay the inevitable through repression and propaganda, but it cannot stop it forever. The control that once seemed absolute is slipping away, one small fracture at a time. In the coming months, we can expect more visible signs of instability. Protests, resignations, and internal purges may increase as the struggle for power intensifies. The Kremlin will try to project confidence, but behind closed doors the panic will grow. Putin's image as a strong and untouchable leader is fading fast, and once that image breaks completely, so does his power. What we are witnessing now is the slow unraveling of a political system built on fear. A leader who once seemed unchallengeable is now surrounded by doubt, mistrust, and anger. The Kremlin can't hide it anymore. The world is watching as the balance of power inside Russia begins to shift. Putin's downfall may not come suddenly. It may be gradual, marked by a series of small defeats, betrayals, and losses of control. But the direction is clear. The myth of his eternal power is breaking apart, and no amount of propaganda can piece it back together. The coming years will determine the future of Russia and its people. Whether they choose reform, revolution, or repression will shape not only their destiny but also the global balance of power. One thing is certain, Putin's grip on Russia is weakening, and the world is witnessing history in the making. As this transformation unfolds, we will continue to bring you the truth behind the headlines, truth the Kremlin doesn't want you to see. Stay informed, stay aware, and remember, no empire built on fear lasts forever.